good thing about being an anime figure YouTuber is you get to meet a lot of really cool people. And they don't come much cooler than my buddy, Zucco. We can talk all kinds of topics in terms of right brands, right figurines, scale figures. But on today's topic, we talk about pre-orders. Now in 2023, pre-orders is much different than it used to be. Is it essential? Is it a dark art? What about the commercial value of it? Find out more in this episode of the Miyazaki Man Podcast, an extension of the ongoing topic of pre-orders. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Miyazaki Man Podcast. I'm delighted to be joined again by Zucco. How are you doing, my man?
What's up? How's it going, everybody? We're going to talk about a fun topic today.
Absolutely.
And I guess the Miyazaki Man will introduce us into that right now.
Yep, thank you for the build-up. We're going to talk about a very hot topic these days, pre-orders. Okay, so back in the day, pre-orders was a very simple thing. You see a figure that you like, instantly pre-order. You know it's coming out. You know what price. You know roughly what date it's coming out. But the game has changed. Pre-orders has become a hot
really
topic
has.
lately.
It's hard to even describe how you should go about pre-ordering these days because there's just so many variables.
That's right.
But I do think there are certain instances where it's good or bad, but there's also things you have to consider outside of just your wallet.
That's it.
So yeah, I don't know if you want to, I guess, start it along just because I don't want to be the first one to jump into this, but you.
No,
I'll work off of you. I think it makes more sense if I work off you.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I'm happy to go with the flow. So you're completely right. Loads of variables introduced before. It's just a price point, the figure that you like. But you have to think about the company now. You have to think about what month is going to be released in, batching them together. Can you save on shipping costs? You got to think as well, in terms of kind of pre-orders, how much do you want that figure now, the safety and security of getting it now, against what if it's not available in the aftermarket or the price becomes extortionate? There's so many variables to think of. And in this example, when you have a figure that you've been waiting for such a long time, but it's an expensive figure, how would you go about not taking a risk or holding back to kind of wait and see if it's still available when it goes on sale, whether people are trying to get rid of them on the bidding sites afterwards, or do you just order it and see how the kind of reactions and media build up to it is coming out?
Yeah, I think the thing is, if you really, really love a specific figure, I think you should just do it, unless it's guaranteed that there'll be plenty of stock when it finally comes out. Because when you think about mainstream popular companies like Good Smile Company or Alter or Kotobukiya, they make a lot of their figures, right? It's very rare for anything that they make unless it's super limited. Sometimes they have Alter will do a limited with amiami.
Oh yeah.
Or Good Smile Company will just make you have to buy from their site.
Yeah.
But for the most part, in 2022 and 2023 now, it just seems like every time I've missed out on a figure, I can just go buy it when it comes out.
Sure.
But there are some companies where you do have to just pre-order it. I know a lot of people are very aware that native binding,
yes,
Rocket Boy, anything that's plus 18, which I don't really buy a lot of stuff like that, but I think most people will tell you, just pre-order it. You're going to regret it if you don't.
Indeed.
All of those figures get very expensive on the aftermarket. And I think because people know that, it just makes a precedent that go get this. It's going to become expensive, and I guess people just keep buying them as a result. So you're always safe pre-ordering those. You don't have to worry about the aftermarket on that. But yeah, it's just interesting because normally you pre-order something for the security. You don't want to miss out.
Yeah.
You want that nice safety net. But lately, I don't feel like you need it anymore, and it's weird because why else would you want to pre-order something except for supporting the company, which I think is really the other side of things. And I don't want to. You can cut me off here because I feel like I could just keep rambling on about
You're
this.
absolutely right. The commercial point of
the
view.
way I see it,
Yes.
is you either support yourself by waiting out a little bit and seeing how the market, dictates a figure's price on the aftermarket, or you just support something because you want to see the company succeed, or you want to see the IP specifically or the character just do well. And I could think of a couple of examples for that. The one figure that I sort of regret pre-ordering but also don't was the Ria's figure from Trials of Mana.
Yep, I can see it. I can see it up there.
Yeah, she's somewhere behind me.
Yes.
Beautiful figure. Costs 17,800 yen, which is really not bad, especially in today's market, considering how much I like that figure. But that thing binned to 8,000 yen. I think you can just buy that right now for 8,000 yen. But even though that's the case, and it did make me a little salty at the time, I ultimately kept my pre-order because even up to the pre-order, no store was out of stock. I knew it was going to pre-order, but I wanted to support the game because I was trying to get them to be like able to make another character from that that series, which is her name's Angela, probably my favorite character from the game. Beautiful character, and they are doing that. They're actually making that figure. It's not painted yet, but there is a great prototype. So I got what I wanted, but I also could have saved like 8,000 yen or something if I just waited.
That's
so you
right.
kind of have to determine what's more important to you. But it really just depends, I guess. You know,
it really does. Like, it sets a precedent because certain series, and now especially in the last 12 months, 24 months or so, Fire Emblem figures, no matter how good the quality, how popular the character, how popular the franchise is, every figure is still available after release date, post-release date, and usually at a very decent price, and you can pick them up retail. You don't have to go to the bidding site to pick them up, and they go on time sales as well. And it's very, very interesting because the quality of a lot of those are really good, and they'll continually make more intelligent systems, collaboration, good smile company, etc. They are releasing additional Fire Emblem figures, and what I found really interesting in that particular line is even though a lot of those figures bargain bin, I'm sure they would have sold a lot of them, high quantity, right? They increased the price point of like Lelina and Roy compared to the previous one, Byleth.
Those got really expensive.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. So what's going on here? They're not fully selling out their quota, their quantity of the figures beforehand at a decent price point. Are they saying now, we can't go for the quantity approach, we've got to go for the expensive approach and sell a slightly less amount because that will still increase the margins, the overall coffers. So that's an interesting one, isn't it?
I think it's the case of like I think they were maybe underselling their figures a little bit in terms of like how expensive they should be. But the jump from like Marth and Byleth to Roy and I think Veronica's another one that's coming out from Zero's mobile game. Those are all like 27,000, 28,000 yen, something like that. Really expensive. I don't know if that's warranted or not, but they also made them limited. You have to get them exclusively now from the Good Smile Company site, or I guess Amiami, but you're not going to get a discount anymore. So there's really no point in getting it from Amiami unless you just can't, for some reason, get it from Good Smile Company. But yeah, I think they realized that they made too many, and they probably thought they would just sell way better than they were going to. Even though Fire Emblem is gaining popularity, it's still a $200 figure at the end of the day, and not every fan is going to want to purchase something like that. And because, Lynn and Ike and Marth just already bargain binned, and I have Lynn, so I know it bargain binned. I bought that day one.
I ordered one you're talking about.
I could have gotten a better deal if I waited. But the company is definitely aware at that point. It's like, all right, we made too many of them. We have to change our strategy. And I don't mind them making it limited, but I do find it kind of annoying. Like, I was going to get Roy, but I just don't feel like it's worth that much of a price jump. Like, I think he looks exactly the same as Marth in terms of quality. Maybe even less, because Marth has a nicer base, and the cape on Marth and the shield and the sword, it all looks really good, but I don't know. It's just a situation where they got to, count their losses and start changing their strategy a little bit for the better for them, but for the worse for us,
I know what you mean. And I guess because they're big, right? They're big, they can absorb any of the losses on any particular figure and still make, absurd amounts on the other range. But I guess the smaller companies, and you did a community post on this recently, they're heavily reliant on the pre-order numbers to justify the manufacturing of that prototype and of that figure, because if they don't hit the quota, people who are waiting for the aftermarket or price reduction or bargain bin, the figure might not even be made, and there's that sort of regret, not supporting the series, not supporting the company, right?
Yeah, I wish I could remember the name of that figure. She had a bit of a crazy name. It was a figure made by Furiyu, who's a bit controversial company because they kind of just randomly price their figures, or at least it's seemingly so, because sometimes they have really great prices, and then sometimes they have really, really bad prices. Like, they just put up a Megumin figure with like a ton of effect pieces, and she looks great, and it's only like 30,000 yen, which makes absolutely no sense when other figures like the Makima and Power cost like 54,000. I don't really want to get into that. But they put up a figure for a pretty obscure character and show. It was like 38,000 yen. And if you went on like MFC, I think there was like 2 pre-orders. And while that's not like the full picture. It's a small sample. It kind of gives you an idea of like how popular something is if even like MFC's database where everybody kind of goes to put on their pre-orders for their page, like no one's buying it. So eventually they were just like, we're not going to make this. We're not going to make enough money from this figure. We're going to lose too much. It's just not worth it. And even though like Furiyu is a pretty big company because they make all those other prize figures and stuff, it must have just not been worth it for them. So that's where like the risk of not pre-ordering a figure because you think it's going to bargain bin might bite you, because then you're just not going to get the figure at all. It's a rare instance that might happen, but it can happen, as we're seeing lately.
Absolutely, absolutely. And especially because there's inherent risk now with the companies who have a certain price point of pre-orders, because especially with Amiami's standpoint in terms of cancellations of pre-orders, they let you cancel up until the point of invoicing for that figure, right? Giving you the invoice for that figure. So what if they've put in the quantity demand to those companies to manufacture those figures and you cancel very close to, you know, the invoice date? Surely they would have manufactured and produced those, flooded the market with those particular figures. So the companies themselves are taking a risk, you know, of actually putting the price points for those figures out there, and it's competitive as well. There's so many figures entering the market, so many different companies. My Ethos is a great example.
Of figures lately.
Yeah, right.
And,
the cheap ones. So
Amiami, I think, is just so big that they're able to do that pre-order canceling situation. Like, they don't have to worry about it because eventually they'll get rid of their stock, and it seems fine for them. It used to be way harder to cancel on Amiami. You had to email them and ask if you can, you know, hey, can I cancel this figure? You might have to make an excuse or they won't do it for you. But now it's just like, hey, I don't want this anymore. You give a basic reason as to why. And if you didn't get the invoice, you're fine. But yeah, it's a very valid reason as to why you probably shouldn't over pre-order, because you will eventually hurt the company by doing so. You know, Amiami will probably be fine, but like other smaller websites, maybe like your local stores, if you buy from, you know, if you're American, you buy from any of the like Big Bad Toy Store, Kappa Hobby, stuff like that.
Sure.
You probably, I don't know their exact rules for canceling. I think Big Bad Toy Store is actually really reasonable. You can just cancel whatever you want, so they're kind of like Amiami. But
Sweet.
I know other websites are not going to really let you do that, especially because you pay in advance on most of the sites. You don't on Big Bad Toy Store, which is probably why they let you do it very easily. But yeah, got to be careful about that too.
absolutely.
Because it's a company. They got to make some money at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
But they're just overproducing, right? Like the figures, there's too many. Like I think there's too many types of figures, just like all these different characters, because the hobby's so much bigger now. But I don't know, they just don't seem to realize that like every stock or every figure just seems to get too much quantity, and they just kind of bargain bin. And I think the problem, or another problem that's going on, is that while it's kind of a similar situation for like Japan, because it's all just local for them, for someone like me, if I see a nice figure and it comes out and the shipping price is like 10,000 yen, I might not buy it. It's just gotten to the point where the shipping prices are so expensive. And I genuinely think a lot of people are just not buying specific figures anymore because they don't want to pay half the price of the figure for the shipping fee, because that just doesn't feel right. It feels like you're paying for nothing. Though more people should just use surface mail. But yeah, it's a big problem, and
point.
it's not like the store's fault. It's not the company's fault. It's just the posts. Like, you can't really do anything about it.
Halfway across the world, yeah, absolutely. And I guess there's two other points of view as well that I think that on the topic of pre-orders that a lot of people don't think about. Is the kind of mental strain and the kind of decision-making process here. So you might pre-order a figure, right, because you really like that figure. But then when you look at your overall pre-order lists, and a lot of people are hesitant to do this, they're like, oh my goodness, June is going to be a heavy month. Oh, that October is killer. January is going to be deadly, right? So it's that kind of untold, pay it forward. Here's your massive kind of lump sum payment in a heavy month, and then people, that's when you end up with the kind of pre-order conundrum. Do I cancel pre-orders? Do I keep them? I really want that figure. Will it be delayed? I hope it gets delayed. Have you encountered that kind of thought process?
Yeah, I've definitely slowed down on my pre-orders just because I've been collecting for a long time, and I'm kind of trying to change my strategy. Sure. But it is a crazy variable that you just sometimes won't know when a figure's coming out, even though they give you a date, because figures get, pushed back pretty often nowadays. If you pre-order from like Fat Company, you're never going to get your figure because they just keep pushing them back. But yeah, a lot of people they just assume figure is going to come out on a certain month, it gets pushed back, and then their whole like strategy for budgeting their allotted amount they want to spend on figures is just ruined.
Yes.
I'm thankful that hasn't happened too much to me lately. One of my most anticipated figures is the Sekiro figure from Gecko, which is like a $500 figure, and the shipping price is going to be ridiculous. It's supposed to come out, it was supposed to come out 2 years ago, but COVID ruined that figure. So it had a date recently for March, and now it's June. And June, I have like some pretty big figures in that month as well. So I'm going to have like a $1,500 invoice. That's not going to be fun to pay when I pay for everything. But, you try not to spend in the other months because, people just want to get stuff, right? When you collect, it's like, oh, this month I have nothing. I'm going to buy something else because everything got canceled or pushed back rather. But, you got to be smart about it. But it is a concern. You got to worry about that as well.
And that smartness can work in two ways. It can work for you or work against you. And I'll give you an example, right? So here's how I justified some very, very expensive purchases. That New Jersey freeing bunny, the like 60,000 yen, Azure Lane on a pole, and some other stuff. Like, if your pre-order list is so big, right, and you've just basically dedicated a huge chunk of your budget towards loads and loads of stuff, the quickest $1,000 you can ever make is cancelling like 4 figures. I made $1,000 just now by pressing a few buttons, right? But alternatively, that's a way to justify for yourself to spend more than you usually would on a figure, because someone might usually say, I'll spend 30,000 yen maximum on a figure, that's my upper limit. But then absolutely out of this world beautiful figure comes out, like New Jersey, 60,000 yen, and you're like, how can I do that? It's so expensive. But you could probably justify yourself by cancelling 4 pre-orders, and it's the same price. You've just traded them off for the one that you really wanted, and save some place.
It works. It works if you have a lot of pre-orders. Like when I look at my pre-order list, it's pretty low at this point. So I feel like I can only cancel like 1 or 2 things and not worry about it. But it's a good point. Because I've definitely noticed just some figures are pushing above the price I would normally want to pay. Because even though I love collecting, I have a moderately like low ceiling of like I don't want to pay more than like, I feel like once a figure's over 250 I'm like I don't know, but I'll go to 300 if I have to. It's just, I feel guilty. Like I genuinely feel guilty spending too much on figures, and then I'll like sell stuff that I don't want.
Sure.
But I've realized that like over the course of collecting that I just finally figured out what I really want lately, so I'm willing to get rid of stuff if I have to.
Same.
But there's just so many nice things coming out, especially because the variety lately, the old days of collecting was way cheaper, right? I think everybody knows that. Every figure was just like $50 to $80 back in like 2012 or whatever, and that was great. But if you weren't really like into the super popular shows, you might not get anything. There were like months where I just wasn't collecting anything at all. I would say years rather, because I like stopped collecting figures because there was just nothing coming out. It was like, all right, I don't need any of this. But nowadays, you're really spoiled for choice. You could just like anything, like any show that comes out, even like a Nendoroid at the very least will probably get made, and then just like all these random companies coming out of nowhere, just making all these like crazy OCs, or you're getting finally like some video game characters that would never have been made before, stuff like that.
I hear you.
Yeah, just great. It's great time to collect if you have the money for it. But you got to be smart about it.
Or you're smart about it. Or you watch videos like this and you learn from experienced collectors about what to do. Because I think there was one moment that really distorted the market. So, when the hype for freeing bunnies like just went over the top, bunnies are breeding, bunny farm, etc., right? I think, and I honestly feel, at that point in time, the scalpers pre-ordered max quantity of the figures that they knew would sell high in aftermarket and would sell out, like the Rindo, Shokugeki no Soma, Food Wars, Bunny Tights version, and all of the really, like the Kill la Kill, Ryuko, Matui, that kind of stuff, right? They maxed out their quantity of pre-order orders, which told the companies there's huge demand for these figures. These figures are amazing. We need to maximize quantity. We'll sell out completely, because their intention was to sell it on in aftermarket. There'll always be buyers because the characters were so popular. And at the time, the bunny figures were 20,000, 22,000 yen, and they could resell it on for 40,000 yen. A decent profit even without commission. And then when people picked on that trend, suddenly the market was flooded. So the pre-orders were there. The companies were convinced that they're selling higher quantities of these figures. sometimes they put lower efforts as well, just generic ones, the black
Yeah.
card, whatever, and
Yeah.
flooding the market with these things. And then there came a point where people were like, I don't want to pay aftermarket prices anymore. I'm going to pre-order too. I'm going to pre-order too. And then all the scalpers were like, oh, we can't shift on, we can't sell these things. And then the aftermarket crashed, and then up it goes again. And then now
Yeah.
it's chaos.
Freeing is crazy. It's pretty hard to track freeing because I think most people would just tell you just get it because the aftermarket will be rough. But I feel like there's a lot of bunnies that just don't jump up in price.
Underloved.
I can tell you the two that I bought because they were both Taiga.
Oh, yeah, I
Not
remember.
jump up in price at all. In fact, I think they both binned. But the first one was because they made a re-release or a remake, a retooling of the bunny figure to make it like a tiger variant, which is fine, whatever. But I feel like lately I haven't seen too many that have jumped up a lot, except for the Albedo one from Overlord
because of the
cast off randomly.
cast-off.
They just decided to make it a cast off, which it's the same thing as the plus 18 figures. Once you find out there's something sculpted underneath the clothing, the price just goes up.
So
I don't know why they would hide that detail.
That's an interesting one,
Makes
though.
no sense.
That's an interesting point, though, because people only say that because I guess on the modern trends they've seen the Albedo cast off, right? But from the time that I was collecting freeing bunnies, there are some beautiful, beautiful freeing bunnies that are secretly cast off as well, like the Percival.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know the Percival freeing bunny figure. Knights of the Round, big white bunny ears.
I'm
She
not
has some of the
super
nicest sculpt
familiar.
underneath that you'll ever see on a freeing bunny.
Okay.
And then there was a Eleanor Villanova or Villavova or something like that. A blue, beautiful bunny, right? She could look like a binding bunny, and she's fully cast off as well. But these two, well, Percival was always expensive in aftermarket. She's quite rare. But Villanova and the other one, another one I'm thinking of, they didn't jump up in price. So I actually do believe, rather than just the fact that they're cast off, it's a combination of cast off and the character who you've never seen, official goods for, like Albedo. You've never seen her officially topless.
That's a good point. I don't think there's probably not a single, plus 18 figure of Albedo besides the freeing one for whatever reason. It's interesting. It's hard to read the market for freeing. I think that's the point. I mean, if you can get like the cheap shipping though these days, it's probably worth it to just go for like the retail price on Good Small Company's site. Because even with discounts, they're going to cost a lot to ship anyway. So I think it's still worth it to just buy them right away if you like them. But it's an interesting point for sure.
Indeed. And what do you think of the mentality of the people who don't want to miss out? They are scared to death of missing out on a pre-order. So on amiami, especially with that policy in place, they will pre-order anything and everything for the fact that they can mass cancel at a later date as well. And then obviously, when
Definitely a bad habit. You shouldn't do that. And if you go through with all those pre-orders, I feel like that's a quick way to burn out.
Yeah.
But that's just me personally. I feel like some collectors just really get too invested in like every nice thing that comes out and then kind of burns out.
Kid in the candy store.
There's a lot of people, a lot of cases where people are getting into the hobby and then immediately leaving within like a year because they've just realized that this is way too expensive of a hobby. And then they just sell off their entire collection, and it's just like, that's sad. It's sad to me because it's like you got into it, you clearly liked it, and now you're just getting rid of everything because you just don't want to like look at it anymore. Yeah. It's all about the moderation. But yeah, I don't know. You definitely shouldn't abuse the fact that you could just cancel on places like amiami. It might bite you one day. It might not, but they could ban you if they see you doing it nonstop. It's possible, but they're definitely more like lax these days. So
that might
don't listen to me, but
that might be the best thing that ever happened to some people. If they ban them, then the wallet is saved.
I mean, maybe they might just go to another store though. Yeah. I don't know. I understand like hype. The hype is real on a lot of these figures, but you could like the way I see it, you don't have to pre-order a lot of these figures though. It depends on the figure, of course, but I think to just kind of loop back to things, like a lot of these figures are available. You don't have to like immediately jump on them, and that's kind of like a strategy that I'm going for a little bit lately. I haven't really pre-ordered that much in 2023 because I feel like I don't have to. That's the problem. I feel like there's no reason anymore. But I'd rather not get like the store's hope up by just canceling it later. Like I don't want to do that. So
of course.
I would rather just wait. Unless it's something I really need. Something that really resonates with me, I'm gonna pre-order it. Or if it's like a limited figure, because there's really no reason to worry about that. Even if it drops in price, if it's limited, it probably won't drop in price that much, unless it's like a really bad figure or something.
Yeah.
But you're probably fine. At least that's the way I'm gonna handle it from now on.
That limited aspect is an interesting one as well, because I still think, right, this limiting thing is a marketing ploy, just because it's more to me about the character and the quality of the figure rather than the fact that it's limited. And the example I'll give you is like Makima and Power freeing bunnies, because that's an area of interest of me.
Yeah.
They went, right, pre-orders closed, and I'm sure people are fan of Chainsaw Man. They're going to keep those bunnies. They're going to be overpriced in the aftermarket. But then you got this Lasher. Do you know Lasher from Beatless? Her freeing bunny. She was an exclusive. Kind of white suit, flowing blue hair, beautiful sculpt. Beautiful
Yeah,
figure.
okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so her pre-order was available for an extended window because she didn't sell out completely. And now in Suruga, yeah, you can find her for a time sale. And she was released at like 34,000 yen or something like that. And now you can get like her original one for 30,000, brand new. Or you can get a B-ranked one for like 27,000. And on time sale, it's about 2,000 yen less than that. And her, for all intent and purposes, if you didn't know the characters, the sculpt and effort and the beauty of that figure is miles beyond the Power and Makima, which are a bit lazy efforts, I believe. Still nice, but a bit lazy.
They're nice. Yeah. I didn't have a problem with the Power and the Makima, but there's a lot of freeing figures that are kind of just like, here's your template, put a face on it, you're good.
Yeah.
But people like it, right? Like, who am I to judge if people love them anyway? But yeah, it's really not about the sculpt half the time, the quality. It really comes down to the character for most people.
The popularity.
Yeah. Unless it's just like so good that like everybody needs to have it. There needs to be something that's pushing the majority of people to get it, and then that'll push like the aftermarket to get a little crazy. I definitely believe that Power and Makima will be fairly expensive. I don't know if they'll jump like crazy prices because there's probably a lot of pre-orders for them.
Yeah.
But I say if you missed out, you might regret that one, but it's just like that Chainsaw Man fever, and it's not going to go away because there's going to be another season and then another season. The manga's still going, so there'll be even more of that. But yeah, it's a crazy time to be collecting, especially for like something like Chainsaw Man, which just seems to be like expensive for every single one of their figures.
The price point is high. The price point is extortionately high, and I feel so sorry for. It's not just new collectors I feel sorry for. There's another category that's come up very lately. There's loads of these new figure review, unboxing, anime channels, YouTube channels, right? And I sincerely hope they don't feel the pressure to pre-order something that they think might give their channel a bit of a boost. Popular character, popular series, trending topic, and they aren't completely in love with that figure, because that is the absolute fastest way to burn out. The fact that they spent a huge amount of their budget on a really expensive trending figure that may not have been their absolute grail or love, that to me would be a travesty.
Because I've definitely thought about that. I don't know if I've ever really pre-ordered something that I didn't care about, but I often think about like, all right, is this gonna matter? Like, is anybody gonna like care about this? Since I'm from America, it's not like I can get something faster than you, for example, and review it really quickly. So it really doesn't even matter. I do specific reviews for figures that I feel like has a wider net. Maybe people are going to look it up more often. But I don't think any of my reviews were for a figure that I didn't like. But I agree that is definitely a way to just burn out, which is why I just stick to what I like. And I think that might hurt overall. But I think that's the key of why you should just do like people love to do haul videos, right? Instead of specific reviews. And I think the benefit of that is that if you do buy things that aren't necessarily like algorithm catching, you still have that like catch of, I'm going to unbox a bunch of stuff you don't know about. So you got to click to find out. And that's kind of like why I think that video works, because it doesn't matter what you get, right? The excitement of you getting it and the suspense of what is the next thing they're going to unbox is still exciting enough for like any YouTuber who's trying to get into the game of just talking about anime figures in general. Because I have like a bunch of boxes behind me, and those are all like figures that I could give reviews for, but like I'd rather just do a haul. I think they're all nice figures. Like I think I have the Asuka Radio Eva 2.0 back there, which deserves a review, but I'm a little late on that anyway. Like, I don't have to review it. Tons of people have already reviewed it. So I'm just going to include that in the next haul, and I don't have to worry about it. It's my first Asuka figure. I like Eva, but I don't... I'm not like a super fan, so I've never really bought into the hype as much as other people. But I did like the design. The design is amazing.
Yeah.
So I kind of like got into the hype of that specific figure, but it was still something that I wanted to get because of just the aesthetic. Yeah. And I didn't do that with any other Radio Eva figure. Like, I could have gotten all the figures in the line to
Asuka,
show them all off on the channel, but I only got the Asuka because it's the only one I specifically really like.
That makes sense. And that's the way to do it. You've got to be true to yourself, right? Here's a hot take. And I've been thinking a lot about, it's a balance between what you think will be successful in YouTube, plus what your audience will like, plus what will generate new fans and, you know, or the metrics or whatever, against what you truly like and what you truly are passionate about. And when it came down to it, like on the unboxing and the haul videos, I know quite a few people. I've got a lot of friends who do it, like yourself, Joanne, Derek, you know, Ken as well. But for me personally, when I get to that point where like I'm actually opening the figure, I personally, filming it, I'd rather just talk about the figure and talk about the series than go through the process of actually unboxing it. I don't know whether my fans enjoy, you know, watching me do the boxing, which is why I speed it up if I actually do that part. I just want to actually show the figure and start talking about the series. I'm really into lore and into detail and into the character and design. And that's the bit that really kind of resonates with me, which is why I've made a kind of rating system on my site to be kind of launched to do that side of things. And then the second side of it as well is like, I heard really good piece of advice. If you focus your video only on one series or one character, it's only going to be fans of that character or series to watch your video. Whereas if you do those unhauling and unboxings, right, it's basically fans of you, fans of your channel, and fans of that kind of mystery element of it, which is a much wider net than people who are specifically fans of that character. And long term, you're going to get fans who enjoy you and that content and the personality you bring about, rather than just bringing people who like that particular series and that particular character.
All right. Yeah, it's just a matter of like what you want to put more of a, I guess, importance on. Because when I make an unboxing, I actually don't do it that often. My last unboxing was in December. It's April now. I've been meaning to do one, but I just haven't gotten around to it because I do like focusing on the figures. But when I do it in a haul video, I do feel like I ramble like way too much. And when I'm unboxing it, it's like, what am I doing? Is this even something anyone wants to see? Is this just me opening a box and putting it together and maybe fumbling a little bit? And I don't know. I never really liked that part. Like, I'm supposed to unbox a Nendoroid. I don't really buy a lot of Nendoroids these days. Not because I don't like them, but just because...
Fiddly. They're so fiddly.
Yeah, I don't like unboxing them on the channel. It's very annoying.
Yeah.
Because it's not a complicated thing, but you gotta like swap the pieces nonstop. It's like, all right, here's this setup, and then here's this with a hat, and then here's with that piece. It's really annoying. So as cute as they are, I limit it also because these things are getting expensive. Not specifically the Nendoroids, just like collecting in general. So I kind of like put that money towards something I really want. But yeah, another figure I need to unbox is the Kirby 30th anniversary Nendoroid. I'm like, I don't want to put this together, even though it's magnetic and it should be easy. I just have to like fiddle with it on camera. It's like, does anybody want to see me do that? I don't even know in my brain how to make that like fun to watch. So it's just like, I don't really want to do that.
You got to do what you enjoy really, to really avoid the burnout thing. I think there really is a meter between doing something like I put a quote on my whiteboard behind the screen. It's like, do something fulfilling, right? Do something that you wanted to make, that you wanted to do, you're passionate doing, because even when you're editing it and watching it back, you're smiling and you're enjoying it, rather than something like treating it as a job, because it's not really a job. It's not a sustainable job at the moment. I mean, you do have to take, some kind of elements of making it professional, the best you can do. But this is kind of why I had a choice right at the beginning of YouTube and doing anime figures, etc. I could, as you mentioned, have got every single figure before everyone else in the world and put it on camera, put it on YouTube and done a review, right? Because I can receive it quicker than everyone else and open it up. But now I was like, I'll be stuck with a figure that I wasn't completely into, rush a video out there just for the fact to say I was the first one to do it. And then what? Then what happens? Nothing. So I was like, no, I don't need to do that. It's just not for me. I'd rather focus on the series or the kind of deliverable that I really want to do. And that's kind of how I made the decision to start the podcast is just to talk to various people about what influences them, about how they organize their channel, organize their collection, buying habits, pre-orders, decisions, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that goes into like how the direction you put your channel, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't really do things I dislike, but I get what you mean where it's like, if it's not a passion thing, it can get a little boring. It's just a matter of like, for me, how I'm delivering it, that really concerns me. And also time. Sure. Like, I don't have tons of time to make all of these videos I want to make.
Yeah.
And an unboxing haul is a way for me to talk about like 4 figures in one video instead of like, all right, this week's one and the next week's the other one. And because I do other things, right? I'm always making like pre-order roundups and news videos if I can. And people seem to like those, so I don't want to stop. But I got to find time to talk about all these things I'm buying.
Research.
I have like 20 figures I haven't unboxed yet, and I need to get around to that.
Yeah.
I have such like I have some like true holy grails that I finally picked up this year, and I don't know when I'm going to talk about them because I just have to find the time. I don't want to fall behind on the things I just got that are like new because I feel like they're more relevant and hype and whatnot. But I'm already kind of missing the train on these anyway. So those other special figures. They'll I'll get to those eventually. And I also, you can see behind me, I actually have a new camera from my brother. He just like lent me a camera randomly. He just had it. So I'm gonna try and upgrade the channel a little bit, which is why I'm taking my time to learn how to use it. Even though I don't expect to be like a professional with it, but it'll be better than my my phone that I used to film my whole channel on so far. But yeah, I always got things that I'm working on. But I just feel bad. I have like all these things in my room that I just haven't unboxed yet. I don't think you can see it, but the Toho figures up there on my Detolfs, I talked about them in December. I showed them off. I'm like, I'll do an unboxing. I'll do a review for them. Yeah. I haven't done it yet because I had to do all these other things, and those figures are like a little complicated, and I don't want to rush the video because they're kind of special. Yeah. But I've also been thinking, because there's a third figure in that line, and I'm thinking of buying that one and then doing like a big thing about all 3 figures, but I'm trying to find it at a cheaper price because no one bought like the Marissa figure, and I can tell that the Yomu, which is the one I'm missing, also wasn't super popular either. So I'm just kind of waiting to see if it ever drops in price because it's available on Amiami still, a little bit cheaper pre-owned, but shipping's like 8,000 yen, so it's not really saving me any money because it was a limited figure. I could have just gotten it from Good Smile anyway. But yeah, it's just a matter of finding the time for these things.
Makes sense.
I'm working on
to me.
Really working on it.
Yep. You're in the same boat as me. I have holy grails I've collected over the last 10 years and like super rare treasures that I'll do a bit of spoilers here because some people know already, not many people, but like from Persona 4, the I can't remember her name, Rize Kujikawa, in the Arabian purple. That figure is absolutely beautiful.
I have no idea what the price of that figure is. It's like really rare.
I've had that. Yeah, I've had that for a long time. It's about 60,000 yen, 70,000 yen nowadays. That will go for in good condition.
That's a lot of money.
I've had that box for a long time. I've got my first 2 Prime 1 statues that I bought over a year ago, and they are just sitting there to the left of me in storage unit number 1, and haven't had a chance to do that one yet. And then I've got, what else have I got? I've got the Misato from Eva, the Misato Katsuragi. She's a really rare waifu for a lot of people. People want that one as well. She's just been sitting there because I've just been moving stuff around. I didn't even realize that she was there, but she is there. The Chitoge Kirisaki from Nisekoi, the freeing bunny. I found her for a pretty good deal last year sometime. And in moving stuff around, she's gone on that little stack, this little stack there. And then it's just everywhere. I've got bits and pieces, but I don't know the right timing to do them because there's strategic videos, and then there's ones that you really want to do, and then there's ones for the trends and hype and things that you want to do at the time, and then balancing that with kind of daddy daycare and other things as well. Oh, my holiest grail, the big statue that I said I would buy if it ever came out again, and someone put it on Mercari because they were clearing out the lot. Do you know Mai Shiranui from King of Fighters?
I think I know the figure you're talking about because I'm in your Discord. I feel like I've seen you.
That's right. Yeah.
You bought that?
Or... I got it.
Oh, shit.
I stuck it up and got it. Oh, bear with me a second. The missus is calling me. 1 second.
Okay.
Hey, Mushroom Boy's on phone. One second. Let me put you on a mic. You bought the strawberries today. So do you want me to eat the strawberries later?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll come back and eat the strawberries later. Yeah.
Hi, sir.
Right now talking with a friend. But I'll take you to 7-Eleven and I'll post the boxes later. Okay. Yeah. Bye bye. Yeah. So
Phone call from the kid.
absolutely, little one woke up and he wants to share strawberries.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, no, very good. So like yeah, I finally got that my Shiranui statue, and I'm gonna do a video. Which waifu? My Shiranui, my Sakurajima, or my actual wife, Mai, and I'll do a pros and cons of the 3 different ones, and let's see the kind of feedback we get from that.
That sounds fun. Yeah, I mean, those videos you definitely don't have to rush at the very least. So, no one's expecting you to make them, so they can come whenever you want, which is nice. Like I said earlier, I don't spend tons of money on figures because I just feel guilty at a certain point. Though recently, one of them was about like 60,000 yen, which is like the most I've ever spent personally. Like that shows you like, oh, I barely spend sometimes. But for some of these figures, because I'll say that one specific figure, it goes for like $1,000 easily.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. Like I'll show it on the channel eventually. I want
If you didn't get it at that time, you wouldn't have got it at that price point, so you had to get it.
Yeah, I feel like a fool. It's just figures I missed out on back in the day because they were too expensive back then when they were $300 and now they're $1,000. So it's like, God, it's the figures I really want though. It's the figures I feel like I need to specifically like show off, I guess, my favorite things, right? It's ultimately why I like collecting, because I want to just solidify something that is really special to me,
meaningful,
on one of my shelves, even though I don't think these things will specifically fit on any of these shelves because they're a little bit bigger. They're not like, Prime 1 size, but they're a little bigger because they're like larger male characters, because I don't even have a lot of figures like that, but these are from some really special games, so I had to get them.
Meaningful. Yeah, I know who you mean. You told me before. So
we're going on a bit of a tangent, but that's definitely my like strategy. I feel like I've said that earlier today, but I want to try and like hone in on specific series and stuff like that, because I feel like it just, I don't know, looks to me, I feel like I would rather have a lot of like a series that means more to me than spreading out my collection really thin of just like, here's one character from a show that I kind of like, and then another one that I think is pretty good, but you just have this like nice shrine of like all these characters from like a media, like an anime or a video game you really love. I feel like I like that idea as I've gotten older more and more. So one of them, which is kind of spoilery for something I picked up, is Dark Souls. Yes. Or just like From Software games. I really love From Software games. And I have a pitiful amounts of like From Software merch, and I really want to like up that as I get older, because I just feel like every single time they make a game is a banger, and I love every single one of them. Yep. But everything they like get in terms of figures, they're normally statues. They're normally really big and really expensive, so I always stayed away from them. But I kind of want to do that moving forward if I can. It's hard to find them because it's such a popular series and people didn't buy them back in the day, so they're just like really expensive. Like one of them, the final boss from Dark Souls 3, I think his name is the Soul of Cinder, is like 25,000 yen now, and like that guy's cool, and it's pretty big because that character is just bigger than like the normal human in the game. But like I just can't do it for that price. It was like $500 when it came out. Yeah. But I don't think anybody bought it because it wasn't like, that game is good. I love it, but I think when you think of a Dark Souls character, you're not thinking the Soul of Cinder, the final boss from 3 specifically. So it was like a very low print figure, and now everybody wants it because more and more people get into the franchise and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah, it makes sense. It's the merch. Yeah. The game itself was like really, really popular, but the merch for it at the time wasn't as hype, right? Because people just enjoyed the game. The collecting side of it is a kind of different hobby, a different aspect. And I agree with that. That as I got older, right, and I've almost pretty much, like, admittedly, I've got every figure that I kind of want at this moment. So I'm not actively hunting for anything, especially for that my figure that I told you about. But the pre-orders, only pre-orders I will instantly buy now are ones that when I look at that figure, I have emotion and I have sentimental value and have feedback and memories and some kind of relationship and bond with that figure. So I put in one of my videos before the Cordelia, right, from Fire Emblem, the Tiamo Cordelia figure, and the reason is she carried me through Fire Emblem Heroes gacha game. She was my first +10. I stacked her with all the latest skill inheritance and everything like that. And apart from being a beautiful figure itself, there's like actual meaning and there's real kind of kind of thought and memories when you look at her, and you just feel happy and proud to just look at her, hold her, do anything like that. And some figures are just as beautiful as they are. I say they're kind of dead. Oh, it's a nice figure, and that's about it. You just look at it, and yeah, it's a good figure, a good value, but it doesn't have that same kind of strong bond and same kind of, doesn't evoke the same kind of feels. And that to me is what an instant pre-order is, or a real grail, right? Something that really is meaningful, impacts your mood, impacts your day.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That figure binned, I think. Didn't it bin and now it's like really expensive?
I think there was a time where there were 2 or 3 available at a fairly decent price. I'm going to say near retail. And then, as soon as people realized, wow, Fire Emblem is a great game. The character is amazing. This is one of the coolest Fire Emblem figures alongside the Camilla, who is the purple haired
that thing's
one.
like so expensive.
So expensive now. And then now you can't even find them. Even if you wanted to pay a high price point, you can't find them. Not available.
I don't know why they don't reprint them. Like, I mean, that was made by Intelligent Systems and Good Smile Company or Max Factory, one of them.
I think Good
like,
Smile, yeah.
They're always they're always in talk. They're always making these figures, and there's clearly a demand for those specific figures. It's just odd. Like, the way I see it, and this could be totally wrong, because it's like a Nintendo IP, right? Even though it's Intelligent Systems, I think Nintendo specifically doesn't like to make too many figures of characters that are not like relevant to the thing that's like out, like on the Switch. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want, like, Intelligent Systems is pretty good about this now because they're making like Ike and Marth and Lynn and stuff like that, but that's probably because they're in Fire Emblem Engage, so it makes sense for them to just get figures. But like, I remember, I don't know if you care about Figma, but they originally put out the Splatoon kids as Figma.
Yeah, I know them. Yeah.
They did the girls, they did the boys. I bought the girls because they're just cute, right? And I liked the game back then. And then I was like, oh man, I hope they make Callie and Marie because they're like the best. I love those characters. But then they just skipped them. And then they went to Pearl and Marina, who are great as well. But it's like, they skipped the most popular... I'm pretty sure they're the most popular. They just never made figures of them for no reason because they weren't, like, making them when the first game was coming out. And then when 2 was coming out, it's like, all right, we got to push sales for 2.
That's right.
So let's put in the new idol squid. I don't think they're sisters. Whatever they're called, because whatever the case. They just put them out instead. I don't know if they're going to do anything for Splatoon 3. Maybe, but yeah, it just kind of seems like the case. They did that with Xenoblade as well, where it's like you got Pyra and Mithra.
Yes.
And then they made, I think Melia came next. I know they're making Nia as well.
They are making
but
Nia.
I forget which one was first.
You remember the Discord chat? You remember the Discord chat and that? I was like, "Who do you think this figure's worth it? Is it good? I want to find it. It looks great." And then I looked at my pre-order list. Oh, it's there.
Like the Nia figure, I don't see them printing as much as Pyra and Mithra. I think the Pyra and Mithra figure are another instance of like the whole like Fire Emblem figure situation where it's like people, they really wanted Pyra and Mithra because they were really expensive on the first release because, you know, they sold decently well, but as soon as people like actually finished Xenoblade and then they got added into Smash Brothers, those 2 figures were going for like $500 each.
Yeah.
I didn't get the first wave. They made 4 waves of those 2 figures, and I bought the second wave. I'm pretty sure because it was like right when Sakurai announced them for Smash and talked about them with their little presentation.
Yeah.
And then like the day that happened, Amiami put up like a bunch of stock for the second release that was just about to happen, and I was just up at like 3 a.m. because I kind of had a feeling they were gonna add more.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now you can find them for like 150 because there's so many of them out there now.
Yeah.
And then they made Melia because I think they wanted to push the definitive edition for the first game. I don't know if you've ever played Xenoblade, but I absolutely love Xenoblade series. So I have every figure except for Cosmos that my girlfriend has instead because she was actually the one who got me into the Xeno series.
It's a franchise. Okay, Xenosaga.
Yeah, she got me to play Gears on
Oh,
the
Gears.
PS1.
Oh yeah, I love Gears. Yeah, I love
that
Xenogears.
game is that game is insanely good, but it's like a flawed masterpiece. I don't know if you know anything about it. It's like
know-
not even finished.
I'm so into RPGs. I've trended into the kind of RPG scene a little bit. I am so into RPGs. I'm gonna make a dedicated Genzo Sakuden channel. That's a
Yeah,
little bit
no,
more
that sounds hype.
spoiler.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, Xenogears is amazing, but there's nothing to really talk about with that. That's actually getting its own figures from Square, but yeah, she has Cosmos, and then because she didn't like 2, even though 2 is like really popular, and like to be fair, I understand why, because it's a bit of a divisive game. She didn't buy Pyra and Mithra. She didn't buy Melia for some reason, so I just ended up with these figures. But now that I really like Xenoblade, I'm down with that. So
Yeah,
I'm like, hey, okay, I have all the Xenoblade figures,
worked
even though
out.
she has so much merchandise for that series. It's funny, but I wish they would make, just to go on another tangent, I wish they would make more like of the male characters. They won't do it
Sure.
because Good Smile Company just doesn't want to.
That's a topic.
For some reason.
That is
But
that.
I
is a
wish they
topic.
would just make Shulk. I wish they would make Shulk or like Dunban or
he's
like
popular.
Noah from the new game.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're gonna do that. But yeah, it's
They
just
will.
like a strategy thing. Like they don't want to make the old characters right now because they're gonna make Mio, who's the main heroine of 3, which came out in July last year. But that's like the only one that's coming out soon. So well, it's not even coming out soon. It's not even painted yet. But that's the only one on the horizon right now.
Yeah.
So
true.
I don't know. I feel like they're sitting on some money by not making more.
I
figures.
think it's strategic though. You know that, right? This is a point for another channel. I'm aware I'm keeping up very, very late in your time zone.
Yeah,
So
I know.
we always go on these
It's
tangents.
9:30 right now for me, if anyone's curious in the morning.
It's always good fun.
But,
It's always good fun. Zucco
yeah,
loves his chat into the early hours. So like,
I do be rambling.
rambling's good fun, man. Especially when you got good company.
Yeah. You were gonna say something though? I feel like I cut you off a little bit.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I think, right, strategically, there's two things here. One, in Japan hierarchy, the top wears the pants. He makes the final decisions. It's always a person at the top of Good Smile or Mega House or whoever who has the final decision on which character he releases. Half for commercial prospects and half because he likes the series and the characters. For a rainy day, I believe these popular characters that are on the backlog, whose his underlings, maybe at board level or whoever, will say, "We need some money. Let's release that popular figure we never released. We've got the IP, we've got the license for them. Out it comes." Boost the coffers, boost the prospects, which is why you see some of those old school stuff just suddenly out of nowhere appear out of the ass.
Yeah,
beautiful figure.
those are kind of my favorite though. I like the surprise.
They're nice.
But I never really thought about that. I mean, somebody has to be making the decisions, of course. But it does feel like some IPs they just don't do enough with, in my opinion. Like to go back to Xenoblade, like Pyra and Mithra sold so well,
Yeah.
and Nia's gonna sell really well. So it's just like, why aren't they making more? Why aren't they like trying just like a couple more? Because I know there's like a lot of demand for them.
I think
like
that's
Fire Emblem's got the right idea. They're making a lot of Fire Emblem. That's like really hype if you like Fire Emblem. But even stuff like you know what's really surprising? They don't make anything for The Legend of Zelda in terms of scale figures besides like that one Link figure, which is really nice. But like, why aren't they capitalizing on like Breath of the Wild? It makes no sense. Absolutely no sense.
I think it's licensing. It's prohibitive in terms of what you can release and the kind of direction, the kind of merch.
I mean, they've made a lot of Zelda stuff though. They made a lot of Nendoroids. They made a lot of Figma.
They have.
Yeah, but and like First for Figures, the resin company, I think they're in China maybe. They make a lot of Nintendo stuff. So I don't know if they have like a deal. But you got to imagine that Nintendo and Good Smile Company have a good deal considering like I can't think of too many figures from Nintendo IPs that are handled by like anyone outside of like the Good Smile Company net. Like Alter, they're not going to do anything. Like Kotobukiya, you technically have Pokemon, but that's like the Pokemon Company doing that. So I don't think that counts. Like I can't really think of any other Japanese company that really handles Nintendo stuff besides Good Small Company and Max Factory. Or maybe I don't think Freeing does anything for Nintendo.
No,
but that would still be under the umbrella of Good Small Company anyway. It's just interesting to me, just like a shower thought, really. I don't know why they don't go a little harder, but I don't know. I mean, they make so much stuff anyway, so I'm just kind of being greedy. I just want more of stuff I like. So.
And on the topic of
I love video game figures. I just want to see more of them, and Nintendo only really works with specific companies, so you got to kind of hope it happens, right?
Yeah, it's historically always been that way, and that's the way it is with Japan companies. It doesn't always make sense, but it's very hierarchical. Someone at the top makes decisions of what they like. We like Rem is everywhere. We like Asuna is everywhere.
They should probably chill out on Rem, but I don't know like who's really buying all the Rems. I don't want to hate on Rem. I like Rem.
It's my boy Derek, DTC review.
Derek,
he's buying all the
I haven't seen
Rems.
a Rem from him in a while though. But like, yeah, I like it's cool that he collects a lot of them. And it's fun to watch him unbox them because you just know he like really cares about the character. But like, surely other characters from that franchise should get made at some point. It's just a little overkill.
Did you see the game show? It bit him in the ass because he was looking back in the shelves for inspiration for one of the question rounds and all he saw was Rem.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, I guess that could happen to you. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's a problem with like prize figures specifically. I think some people will tell you that like, you know, prize figures are great or prize figures are bad. Some people have like certain opinions on them, but and people like to compare prize figures to pop-up parades, but and say like, oh, prize figures are better than pop-up parades. But pop-up parades give you a very, very wide spread of characters, which is their biggest strength. They're just gonna make anything with pop-up parades, and maybe you don't like the quality, but you're probably gonna find something you like if you're into the line. Yeah. Whereas like prize figures, you get Miku, you get Rem, maybe like a 02 or something, and then like something that's coming out very soon or is currently airing, but it's like very restricted. I don't know why they don't branch out a little bit more with prize figures.
Here's the thing, right? Prize figures, the scene in Japan, actually, you'll be surprised. The variety of prize figures is huge. It's just you don't see them available online because you have to win them.
I mean, like certain sources don't carry them. I know some do, but yeah, they don't really show us them.
You don't see them. You don't see them in the Western world.
I guess I can't say I know everything, but from my perspective, it certainly feels like all we're getting are Rems and Mikus, and they're cool. They make a lot of different designs for them, but I don't know. It's just like there's more of a strength in the pop-up parades, but they're very hit or miss. Like sometimes they're great, sometimes they're like the Eren Yeager from season 4, which is like the big dud that people are not happy about. But yeah, I don't know. Everybody's gonna have a different perspective on that because prize figures are definitely increasing in quality. More and more, especially compared to like back in the day. But it's just like I never see one I want because they just don't make anything I want.
That's the thing. It's hard to get the draw, you know, the balance right between the brand, the quality, the style, the series, and everything like that. But I guess as a final point, then pre-order. If there's one figure, there'd be like an instant buy of your character in your pose. You can dream up anything you want to dream up on the spot. What would it be? What's the one that
you're just asking for? Like this does not exist, but if it suddenly did, I would pre-order it.
Any character of any dynamic pose, any situation, any scale.
I don't know if this is actually my first, but the first one that came to my mind is Shampoo from Ranma.
Ranma.
I just love her. She is so cute.
She's adorable.
I love her accent, and there's nothing right. Like I think that IP is owned by Bandai, maybe. So I have her Figuarts, which is great.
Yep.
It was like $30 back in the day, so I'm not complaining about it. But no scales exist. And I don't really care what outfit she's in. She's got a couple of them.
She's cute.
I'll buy a freeing figure if they make her in a bunny suit. I feel like I would rather have her in her like traditional getup with the ramen.
Yes.
What do you call that like box? The ramen box because she like delivers ramen and stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know the specific name for it, but I know what you mean. She's iconic.
Anything. I genuinely don't care as long as it looked good.
It looks like her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to look like her, and I don't want like a company I don't like making her, so I don't want to like, you know, wish something like a monkey paw into existence and then like, I don't know, like Furiyu puts up one for 50,000 yen. Like I don't want that. I don't even think their quality is that bad, but they're gonna overprice it, so I don't want that. But it just sucks. Like there's just some characters will just not get made. Sorry, my voice kind of went out. Some characters will just not get made because they're just handled by certain. Like companies, not to go on a tangent, but I think that's a reason we don't get any like Sailor Moon stuff. Like, when's the last time you've seen a nice Sailor Moon figure? Like, never. They made like one because they just don't want to for some reason. It's such a waste of a clearly profitable IP. But yeah, I'd say Shampoo.
That's good. That's good. Cool. I do like my Shampoo as well. I love my Ranma half series. It's iconic for sure. For me, anything from Genzo Sukuden, any of my favorite characters, favorite waifus, doesn't matter. I don't collect so many male figures, but I don't care. Of that series, male figures, protagonists, or any of the popular characters, I will buy the whole series. You can put 108 Stars of Destiny, all of them from every game. I'll buy the whole set. Doesn't matter. There you go.
Do they have like any figures besides? I'm assuming they have like little trading figures and stuff like that.
They
do they have like any proper scale stuff? No,
not the scale. They have a few garage kits, right? But these must be the rarest things on earth. If you can find like a proper Genzo Sukuden garage kit, my goodness, I would be tempted to buy the most expensive 3D printer just to print these stuff off myself one day if I can do it.
Yeah,
but,
it's tough. I would love to get into garage kits, but that's a talent, right? You gotta. I could use like my slight knowledge of painting Gunpla, but like that's not enough. I don't want to like risk it on like an expensive garage kit, so I gotta practice up a bit more. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that, wish list stuff. If I can give one more, just because I feel like talking. One of my favorite games of all time is a game called Pocky and Rocky. You might know it as Kiki Kai Kai over there. It's just a game about like a shrine maiden and a tanuki, and they go on an adventure to stop a bad guy. But that was a game that I like grew up with as a kid, and it recently got a remaster. No, not a remaster, a remake. Or a sequel. It's like a remake sequel. It's a little weird because it's like the beginning's the same, the middle's very different, and then the ending's the same. So it's like they just kind of mix it up a little bit. I just want Nendoroids of those characters. They're so cute.
There's not much.
And it's like one of my favorite games of all time. And they just they had an opportunity to make something because it's like I think it's pretty iconic in Japan, but it's not like the biggest thing.
There's a niche following, cult following.
Yeah, and the only reason I would like ask for it is because my very first video I made was a Nendoroid of Cotton from the Cotton series, just like a shoot 'em up, which did not need to get made. Nobody really bought that at bargain bin because it was like limited to it was in a limited edition set, so you couldn't just buy the Nendoroid separately. And it's like if they're gonna make that, they could make Pocky Rocky. But I'm just asking for little Nendoroids because they're little chibi characters. It would be the perfect fit. But anyway, I don't want to go on any more of that because I could probably just list a ton of characters if I really wanted.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it in a part 3 as well. But actually, we're gonna go into kind of the gaming world as well because I know you got a lot to say about the old school retro games. But we'll leave it for the next episode because my my repertoire of PlayStation 1 classics is absolutely off the shelf because my dad used to own maybe the first import game store in the UK back in the day, and I had everything: Chrono Cross, Xenogears, Sukuden 1, Sukuden 2, everything I could play. But yeah, let's save it for next topic. I always love these banter sessions. Always a good laugh. We go on many tangents. But that's what people love, right?
Yeah.
Cool. No, until next time, Zucco. Thank you very much for joining. Any last words?
Be smart about your pre-orders. Don't go mass canceling. But think about the pros and the cons because there are definitely some to supporting a company and supporting your wallet. You just got to be smart about it. But times are changing. Might not be worth always pre-ordering stuff, but you also got to keep your head on straight when it comes to like not screwing over the company or the store. You really don't want to do that because you got to buy from somewhere. But yeah, interesting times we're living in right now.
Good stuff. Well summarized, well said, and I'm off to enjoy some strawberries with Little Man. Cool. Until next time, peace.
Later.
Cheers, guys. Thanks. Always a good time having a casual, chill talk from my boy Zucco on the Miyazaki Man Podcast. What more can you say? Two weebs having a good time, enjoying each other's company. Many more to come. Hopefully you guys sponsor the channel, enjoy the content. £1 a month would go a long way, really, to supporting all of our expensive little pre-orders. Seriously, bless you all. Thank you so much for your help. Really enjoy doing this stuff. My family is actually coming to Miyazaki in 1 week's time. Can't wait, so I'm going on a little break. But I'll be back refreshed. Lots of food. Miyazaki Man eats. Genzo Sukuden 6. Little mini projects along the way. Till next time, guys. Peace. I want to say a special thanks to all of the patrons supporting this channel: Ultimate Sakura, Zygo Gaming, Gaming Shelf, Tendai, Captain Hazmas, Kalua, Rondi, David Vince, Chino Penguino, Sophia P, Insufficient Yoga, Master Yao James, Y Coben, Trey Mark, CT, Don P, Alex M, Ash W, Suntan Superman. Thank you all for your loyal support. I've sent out 3 boxes this week to all of our patrons, and every single patron will get a prize from Miyazaki Man. £1 really does go a long way. Why not? Support the channel. Give it a go. Cheers. Until next time. Peace.